Hi, Jim. I'm so excited to have you here today. Um, I really want to learn more about shamanism myself. And you've written a book called White Man, Red Road, Five Colors. And I'd love you to
Mhm.
tell us about you and about your journey and about, I know that you've got very big views on what is a real shaman. And I know a lot of people are throwing I'm a shaman terms around a lot. So can you tell us about a bit about you and your background, please?
Sure. Good to see you. Um, I started exploring spiritual things probably in my late 20s. And when I was later in my 30s, I moved to the West, to Colorado, and I met a lot of indigenous elders. I was working with a lot of Native American students, and so I met a lot of elders. And some of them asked me if I was looking for a teacher, which of course I was. So I started on my deeply spiritual road, and I started working with Native Americans, mostly Lakota and Blackfoot, but later from the West Coast, the Kayat, and some of the other tribes there. And as I went around for Colorado State, I was in Central America a lot, so I suddenly had Mayan teachers, and then Garifuna teachers who's African, and then some Australian teachers. So I'm kind of a mixed bag.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, my birth is Italian gypsy, and my grandmother was the medicine person for three clans in Italy before they came here to the States. So my own personal history is indigenous, but a little different than the ones I've learned from. And so as I went along, I was taught more and more about the different ways. I was adopted by the Lakota, and I was adopted by the Mayan family I worked with. Um, and eventually they started teaching me some of the more deep, extensive spiritual healing ways, which is really shamanism in its old form, in its real true form. And yeah, you're right. There's another word, like so many words that have been misused these days. Most people don't even know what a real shaman is. They think it's, you go and you take a couple of courses and you're a shaman. And that's not the case at all. It's very, very deep medicine. There's not very many shamans around. I do not call myself a shaman. I know some of the medicine. Other people call me a medicine person or a pipe carrier or a ceremony person. I just consider myself someone who's learned from elders and been very fortunate to do so. So real shamanism is connecting at the deepest levels for someone who's really, really um, ill in mind, in body, or in spirit. You literally go with that person at a spiritual plane into the darker realms. You can cross over into the death realm and back again. And so it's not something you want to play with. A lot of powerful spiritual medicine does not go to this extreme, but there are times, and a lot of the prophecies said that in these where we have the opportunity to create this new earth that we're all trying to do, those of us who are on a light road, that the shamanic healers would need to work on entire populations, not just individuals. And so I think a lot of them are doing that now. And that's really intense work, which I respect. I'm glad I don't have to do too much of it.
I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, to be going into in that deeply would, take a lot out of you as well as a therapist. Okay, so getting back to the book, you've written the book. I
Yeah.
know it's about your story, and I'm just wondering, what type of people will it help?
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good question. Now, it's interesting because when I wrote both of my books, but especially this one, I really didn't know what I was going to be writing. It just started flowing and I just went with it. And people have told me it's been a huge help to them in many different healing capacities: mind, body, spirit, emotions. Um, and I'm glad that it does that. I think the book can be read at a lot of different levels. And again, that's what I've been told by a bunch of readers. Some read it just at a surface reading, and that's fine. And they enjoy the journeys. They enjoy hearing about the people I met. I'm pretty open about myself and all the people that I've worked with. So they get to meet some Mayan elders and some Lakota elders, which most people never do. And that's, if that's what somebody wants, that's great. Other people read it a little bit deeper and they see, okay, here's a guy who, in his late 30s, suddenly knew he wanted to walk this road and the road appeared for him. So it's kind of an inspirational thing for them. And then others really pay attention to some of the things I share more deeply. I share a lot of the teachings of those elders, at least enough to get someone started and work on themselves until or if they need somebody to work with them, one-on-one. So I do share a lot of that. I share a lot of the healing practices of my Lakota family and my Mayan family especially. Some of the plant and herbal things and how we go about it. So a lot of it is how to, but without going into the really deep nitty gritty. Like I've been writing about how you set up a space to do your healing. And so this book kind of does the same thing. Okay, what do I need to do to move ahead with my own healing? And then there's some really good tips. Well, they can see what I did, and they could see what worked, and they could see what I was a total. And then, you can try to pick and choose. I think I'll go this way. It worked.
Yeah, I think that's a really good tip for anybody, isn't it? It's whoever's book you write or you read, it's about picking out the bits for you rather than copying somebody's exact journey. We're just guides to help people, to show people how we got to where we needed to be. I think that's a really good point that you made there, so thank you. My last question would be, if you could say a sentence or two to urge people to buy your book, what would that be? Like, what would they get out of it, really?
Okay. Well, one thing, I don't think there's very many people around who have walked the way that I have. So if you really want to hear about someone who was in the jungle, sitting with Mayan teachers and in the deserts, meeting with other folks, up on the reservations, meeting with my Native American, I can talk about it at a level that's very different than most. I remember doing a presentation at a bookstore, and the owner, who was very spiritual and had done a lot of spiritual books, that was his comment. Wow, this is the real deal. Walked it. And that makes me, I think, a little unique. I put a lot of time. I didn't do this intentionally. It just it happened to me, like so much does. I think that to me is the key thing. And then, being able to work on your own healing, work with others on their healing, understand how circles work because it's so important now. I think that's all in there as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jim. Jim's book is going to be available through Global Healing Exchange. It's going to be in our shop very shortly. Jim, if anyone wants to get hold of you on a level to work with you, where will they what's the best place to get hold of you?
Wow. They can get hold of me through Facebook. I'm on Facebook, Jim Gray Wolf. They could email me, jimgraywolfpetruzzi@gmail. And Gray Wolf is spelled Gray, not EY. That's probably the two easiest ways to get started. I mean, they can always phone me, but if they're in Australia, I don't think they want to do that.
No, well, I know that you do sessions on Skype because we've had sessions on Skype in the past as well. So, there's many ways to get hold of you. You can work with Jim wherever you are in the world. He is amazing. Thank you so much today for coming in, Jim.
You bet. Thank you. This was fun.